your host, Nina.
I'm your other host, Lata.
And today we're talking about Season 2, Episode 4, The Moment of Truth. Lata, you want to read us our scintillating and possibly inaccurate IMDb synopsis?
Of course. Daniel struggles to teach a new student. Meanwhile, Cobra Kai students wage war on the Miyagi dojo. I'd like to say, for the record, the synopsis is actually completely inaccurate. This does not describe in any way the goings-on of this episode. IMDb, we expected better of you.
I think they fucked up.
Yeah.
I think they, forgot to write a synopsis for this, and,
Although, I'm going to put, some blame on the show. What is the moment of truth that they are referring to?
Oh, that's right. Okay. I mean, we can... God, the last episode, I felt like it was clear.
Fire and ice.
It was very...
Because there was literal fire and there
was
literal ice.
Yeah. So I guess the writer for this episode went a little bit more...
Metaphorical?
Yeah, metaphorical.
Okay. I can think of one moment of truth, and I still am not sure if it is the moment of truth.
Okay. Your theories.
Okay. So I guess this actually takes us to our first character plot line that we can discuss. Kreese and Johnny. Basically, the entire episode, we see Kreese just creasing around, talking about, Mogadishu with, and in his experiences killing warlords with, the Cobra Kai students. Miguel is rightfully skeptical about this, especially when Kreese says that he has been to war in both Rwanda and Somalia and does not seem to distinguish them.
Rwanda was no joke. Yeah.
Actually, can we play the clip?
You gotta understand that Mogadishu in the 90s was a hellhole. Warlords controlled whole swaths of the city. My team and I were charged with cleaning the place up.
How many warlords did you kill?
You keep track of every ant you stomp out? We were outmanned. I tell you, Rwanda was no joke.
Don't you mean Somalia? Mogadishu's in Somalia. Rwanda's a whole different country.
Of course, Somalia. I spent so much time in the sandbox. It all...
So Kreese is just, lurking in the dojo at all times
and
now.
telling these ridiculous, obviously fabricated stories about being in wars.
He also opens the episode having punched poor Dimitri in the nose.
Yes, Dimitri comes by the Cobra Kai dojo because, oh, come on, can we play this clip too,
yes,
please?
A couple of the guys have been requesting I come join the club. So, I feel like it's time to give it another go. But I've got some ground rules. I'd prefer to take a flag football approach to my karate training. Ideally learning to hit and kick without actually being hit or kicked. Part and parcel with that, I have a bit of a thing about personal space. The other Cobras are just gonna have to accept that. Wow, that is quite the tattoo. Ooh, not to nitpick here, but I'm not sure it's anatomically correct. You see, the hood of the Indo-Chinese spitting cobra is much smaller, and their pupils are actually round, not the vertical type your artist opted for. So, probably an easy enough fix to correct the pupils.
And for his troubles, poor Dimitri gets punched in the face by Kreese, and he points out later in the episode, which I like, that this is actually aggravated assault, which is actually a crime.
Snitches get immunity, though.
As Dimitri says when Hawk gives him a talking to and tells him not to be a pussy, and snitches get ditches and don't tell anybody.
I just want to... I don't feel like this merits, a whole side plotline, because I think it becomes more of a thing later in the season, but... Hawk is a terrible person / friend.
Yeah.
There's no shading anymore to his character.
It's true.
I don't feel like he ever liked Dimitri the way he was talking to him on the phone.
Right.
It's just usually you'd be able to, if you're not as close with a friend, there's still shades of loyalty or shades of camaraderie, but he's just nothing but contempt.
Nothing but contempt.
It's Cobra Kai has hijacked his brain.
And... yeah, generally, it gets to be such a problem, I think, with the second season, where you just have less shading. And in the first season, it was actually a pure delight to watch Hawk become Hawk. And this season, you're just he's just an asshole. And it's not... it's not bad that he's an asshole, but he's like an irredeemable, like uninterrupted asshole 24/7.
He's Johnny in the original Karate Kid movie, but even then, like, Johnny managed to like bring a little bit of humor. I don't know.
Yeah, Hawk is too extra this season.
Yeah.
It's too much. But sorry.
Back to Johnny and Kreese.
Johnny and Kreese. There is a line in your notes that I just saw, and it says, theory, John Kreese is a reincarnated cobra. Tell us about that, Nina.
You know what? These notes are private. They're not for you to just share willy-nilly. I mean, okay, fine. If you want to hear my private theory.
Go ahead.
So, Kreese, I think, has now, like, he still plays like he's just here to watch, and he's an observer, but he's really kind of ingratiating himself into the dojo and into Johnny's good graces. And to the extent that he talks at all, he only talks like it was when Dimitri was like kind of like touching Kreese's tattoo,
telling him how it was anatomically inaccurate here and there.
Yeah, so then you see just Kreese. Kreese doesn't say a word. Like, he just lets Dimitri ramble on for like 5 minutes. And then, like a cobra, he just lashes out. And then next thing you see is like Dimitri stumbling out of the dojo with like a bleeding nose. And then just throughout the episode, you see him kind of like, well, if we could skip to the end, like Kreese has like officially laid out his sob story for Johnny.
So this is the moment of truth, listeners. Not this crazy ass cobra reincarnation theory.
I mean, I am going to hold to that theory, guys. Please tweet at us. I will lay out the reasons. I'm going to work on a full-on
There are no reasons.
Manifesto.
There's no reason
There
here.
is a reincarnation manifesto coming your way.
Anyway, the real moment of truth is... So, aside from, like, his bullshit war stories, Kreese is telling Johnny that he's staying at the Universal City Sheraton.
It sounds like a fake hotel.
Sounds like a fake
not?
hotel. But, you know, when Johnny tries to reach him there, nope, he's not staying there, and he ends up following him and finds out that John Kreese is actually homeless.
Is this a surprise for you? Were
I
you,
mean-
like, shocked?
I wasn't shocked. I was like, oh, that actually makes sense. He does seem like, you know, a rambling homeless guy.
You know what he said when he was on the phone in his obviously fake conversation with one of his hoteliers, and he said, the housekeeping must have made off with one of my watches.
Right.
And the look on Johnny's face, he's like, one of your watches,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, and so he's got like this whole thing where after he lost the dojo, things got rough. He tried to re-enlist. They wouldn't let him join because of his obvious psychological problems.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, they said they wouldn't let him re-enlist, but I'm just thinking, like, isn't the army just kind of, I mean, like, what are the...
Don't they need people?
They are always recruiting. They're recruiting, like, right... I mean, you have to be really...
I mean, he was probably pretty fucked up in the head, honestly. So
I mean, to not take... Yeah.
They would not take him despite him serving in... What war do you think he was a veteran of? Probably Vietnam,
Korean
right?
War.
Really?
He's not that old. So
How
I
old
would
is he?
say
Huh.
he was probably 15 to 20 years older than Johnny in the first movie. So Johnny is, what, 18, right?
In the 1980s, right.
Right, and Kreese was probably like in his 30s, late 30s.
So he probably served in Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess maybe he was a veteran of the Vietnam War. I kind of have an alternate theory
Okay,
that he
let's
never
hear it.
served in any war, but that's...
The Boer War, he's eternal.
Immortal Kreese, also a theory. There's a lot
Please
of
write
theories
to
in
us
this.
with what wars you think Kreese participated in.
And every
Give us
war
the
is
dates
a perfectly
so
fine
we
response.
we can get a sense of how old he is.
Right.
He's
Well,
immortal.
anyways, since the army wouldn't take him and he turned down a job from a war buddy because he thought it would be a handout, he's just spent like a lot of time rambling around. He's been in homeless shelters for 10 years. And then he heard that Johnny had won this tournament, had elevated Cobra Kai back to where it belonged, and he was really excited and sought him out. And to me, I'm just like, really? How'd you hear that? Who told you that?
Okay,
Was
so
that
what
the
do you
talk
think
of
the real
shelter?
story is? Because this is obviously bullshit cover for something. Like, I think... So he obviously knew...
I
Like,
think that
it
this
was-
is just bad writing.
Really?
Yeah. I think you're expected just to think that, like, and again, Cobra Kai writers, I love them. For the first season, it was amazing. This season, there's a lot of stuff where you're like, wait, what? And this is one of those things where it's just like, so you just psychically knew, huh? When Cobra Kai won the tournament. Okay.
No, I mean, but this goes back to our theory that he was always in Panama with the karate magazines, closely following all
He was
Valley
not in
tournament.
Panama. He was at a homeless shelter.
He was in a homeless shelter in Panama. Why can't both of those things be true?
With a subscription to a karate magazine.
That he stole.
That is
he put
more
under
crazy than your Cobra reincarnation theory. For God's sake.
By the way, I'm going to put in clips from this episode that utterly proves my theory. And if I ever figure out how to do this on Audacity, I'm going to put in a supercut of everything, every Kreese clip that proves that he's a Cobra.
Is he? Wait, are you saying he's currently a Cobra, or that
He's reincarnated the spirit of a Cobra. Do you know what I mean?
This is dead air right now. That's
We're
what
not
we have.
editing this out.
So, anyways, that is
I've
our
been trying to censor me from day one for my hot and very topical comments.
for those conspiracy theories that
Right.
lead us no good place. But anyways, essentially, Kreese has spills the beans about what he's really been doing, and Johnny really actually takes it is like, well, you know what? You are not a crazy shell of an old man. You have a place here. Everyone deserves a second chance. It's very nice, and as you said while we were watching the episode, God, he really is the only person here
Johnny
who
melts
can
my
act.
heart in 50,000 different ways. I love him more than Miguel, and that's saying a lot.
And since there's a lot of, there's not a ton of Miguel in this episode. All he does is kind of question the veracity of Kreese's stories. But since there's not a lot of him, it does really drive home that, like, man, those are the only two that can act.
Yeah, it's so endearing
really.
to see that everyone in the show, every character has kind of a blind spot. And Johnny's blind spot, it's like, everyone's blind spot is the past and what they remember of it. So Johnny is like, maybe it wasn't as bad as all that. Maybe I have learned something from my tutelage under Kreese, and he's a different
And he's
person.
definitely, as a person who's, as we mentioned, constantly yearning for a second chance. He wants to give other people a second chance. It does drive me a little crazy over the course of this season, where Kreese does more and more shit, and sometimes I want to be like, Johnny, he is literally a homeless man. Kick him out of your dojo. Oh my God. Why does this person have so much power over you? But I get it. It's part of the story. You're right. It's probably his character flaw. And to me, this was the most compelling storyline in this episode. There's a lot of we touched on the Hawk and Dimitri thing, which, not much has happened here, but stay tuned. We've seen Dimitri try to join Cobra Kai. Not join Cobra Kai, and then at the end of the episode, he goes to Miyagi-Do to learn karate. Which
Yeah. Did you see that coming the first time you saw this?
I didn't. No, I didn't see
Yeah.
that coming at all. It makes sense in retrospect.
I mean, it makes sense in that every single person in this town needs to be somehow linked to karate at all times.
Right.
So, Dimitri choosing not to be part of Cobra Kai, created a ripple in the universe, and they were like, okay.
How are we going to get him into karate? And
Yeah.
definitely, you can see, obviously, this exacerbates the rift between him and Hawk. And it's a little, it's kind of absurd, but it's also I did like it as a twist. And you're right. This season especially has this weird conceit that everyone in the universe is somehow involved in karate. I don't mind it though. I kind of like it. It leads to some interesting things. Later in the
And
season.
honestly, the scenes of him, Dimitri being hurt about Hawk's rejection of him, they read very real to me.
Yeah.
The pain of losing a friendship when you're that age. In stark contrast, I say to the dead horse of Aisha and Sam's
My God.
friendship, can we just put some pennies over its eyes, just draw the shroud, and just put this thing out to pasture?
I never got the sense that they were ever really friends in the first place.
Oh
and
my God.
The show kind of keeps insisting that they are, or maybe
They had
it's
a
just
storied past, and it involves
I don't know, competing in chemistry camp together or something.
Robot camp.
Sorry, but
these rich kids are not going to chemistry camp, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I mean, they're building robots out of raw diamonds. I mean, Jesus Christ.
so in this episode we see Aisha and Sam are kind of they had a falling out just because in the previous episode, Sam's dad put out that commercial insulting Cobra Kai, and then Aisha was part of that demo that totally drowned out Miyagi-Do's demo. Okay, again, I was like, what? Why would you be personally mad at each other for this? And wisely, it seems like the show itself realizes that, and as soon as they confront each other, they both kind of let it go.
Yeah, they both go back to like having the same shallow friendship they did before. That really, I feel like Aisha could go either way. Like, she doesn't seem particularly bothered. It's just more like, she has her new Cobra Kai friends. It's Sam that is desperately trying to hold on, and it is...
Because Sam, as you may recall, which
has no
sometimes the show does not recall, in the first season she had these mean girl cool friends and had this whole arc about that. Now this season, this summer, she just has no friends whatsoever, except for Aisha, who she didn't really give the time of day to in the previous season, but now expects to be her BFF.
It drives home that, like, hanging out with Sam would be the most excruciatingly boring afternoon on Earth. Like, I don't know what she was doing before she had Miyagi-Do, because it's like, I know they, like, all the adults talk a lot about kids being on their phone, but it's like, Sam doesn't have a personality or hobbies or friends or interests beyond karate. So it's like shocking that it's taken her this long to actually get more involved. Because I'm like,
what were you doing before that?
What were you doing before?
Like, I'm not...
She's not going to our high school, so you know she's not doing her homework.
Right, and like, what is she about exactly? I don't know. I mean, right now, at this exact moment, she's about desperately trying to hold on to Aisha as a friend. A wrench in the works is that a new girl has joined Cobra Kai.
Yes, let's talk Tori. Okay, Tori's entrance to the dojo is Johnny asks who wants to square off against the reigning champ, who is Miguel, and everyone's silent.
Remember that they have a lot of new students thanks to their demo last week.
Including one new student from the Home Depot.
He is like a 20-something... I don't think so.
Home Depot guy.
Home Depot guy who's like in his late 20s, lives with his mom. Apparently saves a lot on rent money because of that, and has plenty to like spend on karate lessons. Johnny lets him stay despite it being a class for high schoolers.
Again, what I like about that scene is it's immediately follows a scene where like Johnny is talking to like the grifter landlord about the rent going up, and again, like, he's trying to keep this dojo alive and profitable because it's an economic venture for him as much as he enjoys it. Unlike for Daniel.
We'll get to that. But so hence why a Home Depot guy gets to stay. Unfortunately, he stays throughout this entire season, but you know what? I'll complain about that in later episodes when he gets more screen time. But anyways, he asks if anybody wants to take on Miguel, and new girl Tori, with a Y, stands up. She's hot. She's cool. They start fighting. Their fighting takes kind of a flirtatious nature. She's clearly already very good at karate.
Except she says she's only had a couple kickboxing classes. As someone who took kickboxing for a few months in college, I never got good.
And no, you did not have a couple classes and then somehow like be able to like block maneuvers from a karate champ.
Yeah, so Tori's kind of like on the wrong side of the tracks. Clearly not one of the rich kids.
A little bit of a bad girl. I don't know why the show insists on lying about her, like, fighting background, but okay, she's good, is the point.
Yeah, they do a couple interesting things to sort of, like, set up her character. One, she's got these, like, fisticuffs, I think, like this bracelet with spikes on it that she apparently has used to
ward off, like, a pervy guy.
Yeah,
so, you know,
that's fair.
More power to you.
And her and Aisha, I guess, could also use
a friend, especially
friends.
A female friend.
Everyone needs more friends.
And now
in
that
show.
Now that there's like two females in the dojo, they're bonding. Aisha asks her to come to like the beach club that all the rich parents and their kids hang out at, and so they go there. They meet Sam. Well, Sam meets Tori after she's just stolen a bottle of vodka from behind the bar and gets pretty judgmental about it, and is just like, you shouldn't steal. What did you think of that?
I mean, it's sort of like, okay, if Sam has any kind of defining character traits, it's like kind of a goody-goody. Like, that's why she fell out with the mean girls, is because they're saying, like, yes, she's just a mixed-up teen, but at her core, she's good. She's like Robbie.
I mean,
you know, in some sense.
Wait, can I counter that? The reason why she fell out with the Mean Girls is because, like, Kyler, Asian bully extraordinaire, spread rumors about her. Like, she didn't, of her own volition, like, go against them. And, you know, I bet they were stealing vodka all the time. Like, just, it seems odd.
But they were always setting up Sam as being kind of like, she didn't quite fit in with them, even as she was part of their group, or, like, who knows? I think Sam has no character or personality, and so she's like water. She takes on the shape of the container.
And in this instance, she's very anti-stealing, which is just like... And not that you shouldn't be anti-stealing, it just seems like a strange like thing to suddenly be like...
I don't know if she... part of me thinks, like, since her only current plot line is, like, begging for Aisha's attention back, maybe she was just, like... jealous that Aisha
had a new
friend at the country club, which is a really strange thing to say out loud, but there it is.
But there it is. Thus, like, you know, kind of pissing Tori off, and she and rightfully so. So she and Aisha go off and have some vodka together. Sam goes back to her mom. Her mom's missing her wallet. And, you know, Sam immediately...
It takes 0.0 seconds for her to, like, make the leap from... So Tori, after she steals the vodka, makes kind of like a clearly, like...
Facetious remark
about stealing the silverware in this place.
Because nobody's watching, so the adults are drunk, which is true.
And Sam immediately is like, yeah, okay, so now, instead of hanging out at this country club, Tori is on a spree. She's
just
going
to steal
from alcohol
everything.
to wallets. And I was just like, I wrote this in my notes in case... She will be asking for the manager in 20 years. Probably less time than that. She is that person. She will be reporting kids on her lawn. I just think, Jesus, she's such a wet blanket.
Yeah.
And I say this as two people that didn't get up to much in high school.
No.
We were not stealing vodka.
Never stole any vodka. I want to say that
but
for the record.
Would I begrudge someone else their fun? No. Be free. Live.
Steal that vodka.
Also, we're too tired to care.
Yeah, also, I mean, it's a country club, but I'm not sure how much it matters.
They really wouldn't miss it.
Right. I mean, one thing Sam does point out is that if you get caught, you'll be in big trouble, which is true, but, hey, whatever. Live your truth, Tori.
Tori is taking risks, you know, that she sees fit.
And, Sam does confront her about the wallet, which... You know, Tori is understandable. And I'm not, like, a big Tori sympathizer throughout this season. She's kind of, like, a bit much, but, like... Tori is understandably, like, really pissed off about that, ends up shoving Sam into a table. Sam is covered with pudding, you know, it's kind of satisfying.
And then I thought this was the most ironic thing is when Aisha tries to help her get up. She's like, nice friend you made. And it's like, sorry, you and your Mean Girl clique were, like, terrorizing Aisha for the better part of a season, and you did shit.
You did nothing, but, you know, I'm glad you remember.
I know. It's infuriating.
Yeah, Sam is an incredibly infuriating character. Just, speaking of characters from the wrong side of the tracks, let's talk a little bit about Robbie's plotline. I'm sorry.
Robbie's getting way more screen time in season 2.
This is a problem.
This is a problem because you think, okay, maybe we just didn't know enough about him. But no, guys, I think we've known all along that Robbie is just...
There's not a lot of there.
No.
I mean, the thing is, it's like, in this episode, like, he's
back
at
the... Perfect for Sam.
Yeah, I suppose so. Multiplying zeros and such. But he's at the beach club. He's, like, sunning himself. And, like, the manager of the beach club, you know, obviously, like, he's been there before. He was running some kind of con with his, like, old thug friends from season 1. And so the manager recognizes him and goes up to him and says, like, leave immediately or I'll call the cops. I told you that. Now, if I were the manager, I would have just called the cops. He is, like, a criminal who's referred to the premises. I think it's nice that the manager actually gave him the option of leaving. But anyways, Mrs. LaRusso gets up in there and is just like, what are you doing? He's our guest. And I think it's interesting because I know you're supposed to sympathize with, like, Robbie, but, like, being the contrary asshole I am, I'm like, this poor manager is just trying to run this place. He knows he's not falsely accusing Robbie of stealing. He knows Robbie comes here to steal. So he tells him to go. He's not aware that Robbie's had an evolution of character in the past few months. And then Mrs. LaRusso gets up in there and pulls rank on him because she's a customer, he's just an employee, right? And I feel bad for the guy.
See, I'm conflicted because as a socialist, I can't ever align with the managerial class. But also, Amanda LaRusso is also part of the managerial class.
She is above the managerial class.
It's true. So I kind of just want both of them to go away. And
you want Robbie to drink stolen pina coladas?
No, I want Robbie to sort of fall into the pool and drown.
So you're just anti-everybody then?
I guess I'm a nihilist. I just want the world to burn.
Because it's I was just honestly I like Mrs. LaRusso usually, but I was just kind of okay, yeah, well, great. I'm glad your adoptee is a reformed scoundrel, but it's not this guy's fault that he's just trying to do his job. But whatever. Robbie, she asked him what's going on, and Robbie's kind of I might have, before I met you guys, I had a past, a dark past.
He does have some integrity in coming clean about that. And then she gives him a sweet speech about second chances. Again, I feel this episode should have been called Second Chances
would have worked better. I think
too literal, I suppose, for the writers. The fuck is the moment of truth, though?
Yeah, seriously.
If each plot line has a moment of truth, we covered Kreese and Johnny. Is Daniel I think I have an idea what Daniel's moment of truth is. What is Robbie's?
Christ.
Or God forbid, what is Sam's moment of truth?
I can't even.
No, she just has moments of ennui.
I mean, Robbie does after that whole confrontation, after Amanda LaRusso discovers her wallet is gone, he goes down to the beach to this hiding spot beneath a couple of bleachers, and he finds a collection of wallets, and you quickly realize that's where he and his old thug crew used to store the wallets, and they emerge out of the woodwork and immediately literally out of the woodwork and begin taunting Robbie, who says you're gonna have to give this all back now, which is just
he never made a very good thug, to be honest.
Okay, Robbie, and he gets hit in the head with a paddle. Did I cheer, listeners? Maybe a little bit.
He doesn't make a convincing former ruffian. That's the problem. What makes Johnny's character so great is that he really believably embodied an 80s bully, and so watching him as some shading to that and come across as the most compelling character is a feat. Robbie can't act. So they were you know what? We got to just make some clean-cut young kid.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's it's the acting, and also it's just maybe it's that with Johnny, it's he was an 80s bully. Some part of him is still an 80s bully.
Yes.
And that, actually, do you know what I mean? And there's other better parts of him mixed in with those parts of him. Robbie, you never get the sense that he was really a criminal. He was actually convincing in season 1 when you see him. Do you remember, in the first scene you see him, when he is, conning a customer at Best Buy out of a laptop. And he comes across as this very clean-cut, sweet-faced kid, and then he, ends up stealing that laptop. It's you can see how he would have been a successful little con guy. It's just that, you don't, really, you don't look at him now and think, oh, man, he's a reformed bad boy.
What would be interesting to me is if that kind of element of being a bad boy is only in reaction to his relationship with his father. That would add some character nuance. Or,
honestly, if there was still a tendency in Robbie to want to con people because he's good at it, he knows how to look sweet faced and innocent. If he was always kind of accidentally trying to con people and then feeling bad about it, I don't know.
You know, a few episodes ago, when he first starts training, or maybe that was late last season, but when he encounters his old buddies and they're trying to break into LaRusso Auto.
That was last season.
Yeah, and he immediately sticks up for them. It was the character arc was too soon.
It was too quick.
He needs to have some he needs to slide back into his old ways in order to show some.
And was he ever really friends with some of his thug buddies? Because then he would feel mixed about
maybe season 3 is when they were you actually get to know the buddies a little bit, and they're actually Robbie was the craziest of all of us. He slaughtered a bunch of people in the town over, and then it's all a long con.
Right. That would win me back. I would be on Team Robbie if it turns out that this is all a long con. Yep, I'm here for it.
Right.
Because this Robbie is not interesting. And in fact, I'm just going to cut his storyline off and talk about how when he is being assaulted by his former thug crew, who literally leaps from a higher deck to his rescue, it is Daniel who uses his karate skills to ward them all off. I mean, I know Daniel is a former karate champ, but 3-on-1? Whatever.
I don't
okay.
think so, but then it was
none of these kids has a gun? Really? Okay.
That's
sure.
the other thing. I mean, it's not. Is it easy to get guns? I don't know. I guess it's America, Jack, so I feel like you probably could get a gun.
Yeah, right? But anyways, they all fall prey to his karate skills immediately. And before we talk about the outcome of that, we need to talk about Daniel's plot in this episode, which is why they're at a beach club for most of this episode.
Okay, going back to the building. So, Daniel is quite depressed in this episode because of the fallout of the All Valley Fest. Valley Fest? Just Valley Fest.
Valley Fest, where, as you may recall, his demo of Miyagi-Do was very overshadowed by the demo from Cobra Kai.
Again, it's like these karate moments that have like the seismic effect on his mood.
Right.
And
he's basically just like, well, we need to find some other way to drum up more students. And it's interesting because you see Sam and Robbie talking about, like, oh, we got to do something to promote Cobra Kai and make it more attractive to people. And they're kids. I get it. They're wrapped up in this. Daniel, I mean, this is, again, another Daniel moment that really pisses me off because it's like, this isn't a business for you. It is not, like, something where you need to, like, have more students in order to stay in business. This is a weird side
let's
project.
All take guesses about what other quarter's marketing budget he's going to blow through.
It's like, this isn't urgent in any way. This is, like...
You know what? Daniel's the real snake in the grass because, stay with me here, folks.
Oh, God. Is he also a reincarnated cobra?
No. Did I say that? Anyway, I hate that so he takes, he's all depressed, wandering around Miyagi-Do, aka his home, his palatial home. And like Robbie and Sam are trying to like pick up his spirits, and he's just like, no, let's go for a cruise.
And he decides that the best place for them to like get more students who really need Miyagi-Do is the beach club. Yeah, the beach club, the country club where he and his family are members. He will talk to rich parents and ask them to send their rich kids.
By exploiting their fears.
Right. Which is kind of like, hey man, like maybe since this is a free dojo, you should offer like inner city kids a chance to train with you.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe.
Oh my God.
But instead, and his idea where you gotta, when you're selling to people, you gotta like look them in the eye and gain their trust. And it's like, yeah, you're like hobnobbing with your rich friends and basically...
Yeah, so what's interesting about that is when Sam and Robbie are trying to talk to him and like basically be a therapist for him after Valley Fest goes bust, he's just like, no, we're not gonna do it the Cobra Kai way, I may be a used car salesman, but I've got some integrity, goddammit. And it's like, what says integrity than pretending like you're just going for a pleasure cruise, not filling in your wife on any of your machinations ever, and then hitting up the country club and like hitting parent after parent and like with this kind of like devious smile on his face.
Right, like, so, what's your son doing these days? Oh,
getting beat up lately.
Is he addicted to his phone? Well, maybe he's gotta go old school, like I just did with my dojo.
I know, and he's like, well, what if they told you, like, their kid had gotten into meth? He's like, you know what the remedy for that is? Miyagi-Do.
Yeah.
Anything...
The solution is Miyagi-Do, no matter what. I cheered when, at one point, he's got a bunch of, like, fathers surrounding him, and he's talking about how Miyagi-Do is so fucking great. And then Aisha's mother walks in, and it's just like, are you guys talking about karate? Yeah, it's so great. It totally saved Aisha's life. Oh my God, Cobra Kai and Sensei Lawrence are the best. And I loved this moment because, one, you can see Daniel defeated, which is nice, and two, it's like, this supports what I've said all along, which is I think that the show is at its best when it realizes that neither Miyagi-Do nor Cobra Kai are bad inherently. Like, I think they both have things to offer to different types of students. I think Cobra Kai had something really valuable to offer to Aisha. And this season sort of like, I don't know, man.
I don't know what's going on with Aisha. You forgot to mention the scene that had us... Well, it's a special Daniel scene. Daniel's walking along the beach.
Oh, God.
Like,
he has just been disappointed.
He is in a Zoloft commercial, and he's just questioning everything.
He has not been able to recruit any rich kids to be his students, and he sees a man in a hat.
In a bucket hat?
Yeah, fisherman's hat. Fishing. And what does he think immediately upon seeing a man fishing? It's got to be the ghost of Miyagi.
I mean, would that were true? Wouldn't it be great adding a horror element to this? Miyagi has been haunting this town forever,
yes.
like Pennywise.
I'd like to see that there never was a Miyagi. Don't you see?
Oh my God, it was always kind of Yes.
A weird Daniel hallucination that came to life.
I mean, that makes sense. And then they do the supercut where it's like every memory he's had is actually him just talking to like an empty car or like a random bonsai plant.
Somebody write this.
The script writes itself.
Doesn't it? But no, it turns out that this is not Miyagi, guys. It's just a dude fishing. And this is the part where it gets ludicrously sublime. Because,
he's vaguely ethnic.
Yeah, he's vaguely ethnic. And Daniel's like, oh, I'm sorry. It just looked like a friend.
The hat.
And the guy says, does your friend like to fish? Yes, he did. Well, and Daniel's like, your bucket seems empty, though. And the guy says, if you got something worth biting, the fish will come to you.
I was like, I refuse to type this line down. I want to try to scrub it from my memory. As soon as I heard it, I felt assaulted.
Everything about that. Just that
this man spends his like one afternoon or whatever fishing, enjoying quiet time, and then this random stranger approaches him, confuses him for a man that's been long dead.
Yeah, and
on the basis of a hat.
And any other person would be like,
nothing like Miyagi.
Right. But just like any other normal person would be like, okay, well,
excuse
bye.
Me, gotta go.
Yeah. But the idea that instead he decides to engage with Daniel and like offer him sage fisherman metaphorical advice.
You know what's in that bucket? More metaphors. More. He's like, which one should I try out next?
My God. And just... But if you've got something worth biting.
Yeah, I know. And Daniel, like, you can tell, Daniel should have worked for Hallmark because the way he responds to platitudes is honestly like a jolt of energy. Like,
you're right, man.
Nothing else seems to sink through.
You're a lot more like my friend than I thought. It's just like, poor Miyagi, rolling in his grave.
I was like shouting, I was like, run, dude. Run, fisherman, because Daniel's gonna like shove you in a van and take you away.
Because he's the reincarnation of Miyagi, right? Like,
oh my God!
Clearly,
and
what
the
the
way
show's
our
implying.
horror movie would end is like it pans to like his secret bunker in the basement, and the fisherman's just trapped there. Okay.
And Daniel keeps going down for more platitudes. I know,
right?
But see, the episode ends more or less with like Daniel's like contemplatingly looking at the window. Robbie approaches him and is like, "Hey, guess what? I got a video of that you fighting off 3 thugs at once."
Does that seem really unlikely to you? That
completely.
He's probably suffered a concussion from being brained over the head with a bat.
But he got a video.
But he then immediately picked up his phone
kids
and
these
decided,
days, right?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but he apparently has one and says like, well, why don't we post it on YouTube? It goes viral. We get students. It'll be great. And Daniel, who's learned something from his mystical encounter with this fisherman, is just like, no. You see, Miyagi didn't recruit me. I went to him because I needed him, and we'll do the same. And the thing about this is like that's actually pretty good as a moral of the story because like this entire
episode,
let him
come to you. Don't be thirsty, Daniel.
Well, yeah, and also just like, what are you trying to do, man? Like you have this free dojo. And you're not using this as a way to make money.
He wants to be popular.
Yeah, it's definitely in this episode. You're like, you clearly just want to be popular and like outdo Johnny Lawrence as opposed. And again, I will repeat this: if you really cared about giving back to the community, you should recruit like inner city kids who can't afford karate in the first place instead of just trying to eat Johnny's lunch. But whatever. And I do like this revelation that he comes to at the end that he should stop doing that bullshit. He doesn't really stop doing this bullshit, though, but hey, it's a nice moment. And then Dimitri walks in, so you're like, oh, okay, all right, I got it. Student came to you, I see. And to be fair...
You think the realization, the moment of truth, if you will, was all because of the fisherman?
Ugh, that's so sad if it is.
I'm wondering.
Sure, yeah. If he had not seen that fisherman, I think he would still be recruiting at the country club.
Okay, thanks, anonymous fisherman. Be free.
You are the hero of our story.
Maybe we'll see him again when Daniel inevitably backslides and forgets all of his Miyagi lessons.
I mean,
which happens every 2 episodes.
It really does, and I understand. I mean, I guess now that we've like seen the Karate Kid 1 recently, it makes me think like Miyagi was very different from Daniel. Like I don't know, like he like definitely did not want to take Daniel as a student at all, you know, and was very reluctant to do anything.
He's not real.
Why would your hallucination like turn you down so many times though?
He's got low self-esteem.
But yeah, like and Daniel's definitely like desperate for students, which why do you even need more than like Robbie? Like Miyagi didn't have more than Daniel. Like it's just what I'm also clearly what he's trying to do is compete with Johnny, but like the show never makes that explicit. So it's just kind of like, what do you want, dude? I mean, you already have a good business, good family, a student who worships you and thinks you are his pseudo father. I think you're done.
I think you're done. Any other stray observations here?
Let's see. Well, my notes don't have any crazy reincarnation theories.
Yeah, not yet. I
well,
mean,
except for the
right
Miyagi
there
thing,
in front
I
of you
guess.
guys, if you really look.
Connect the
if
dots,
you know where to
people.
look.
So, what would you rate this episode?
Okay, you always ask me first, and then I'm just scrambling.
No, that's not true. You always ask me first. I could come up with a crazy, wonderful rating system, and then you get jealous. So I wanted to give you a chance to do that.
Okay, fine. 2 out of 5 mystical fishermen with platitudes.
2 out of 5 mystical fishermen with platitudes. That's pretty good. I also give it a 2 out of 5 Kreese's fictional stolen watches.
Yay! That's good.
And well, actually, I want to ask you an overarching final thought.
Yes.
What do you think it is about this season that it just doesn't quite seem to be coalescing together as well as season 1?
I think it's more gimmicky. I think, they were trying to, they probably didn't even know how the show was going to do, so they tried to make season 1 as kind of they bookended it. They, created a genuine arc for 2 people, based on kind of, this raw material of Karate Kid 1. So, poor man Daniel is now wealthy and kind of clueless and still thinks he's down and out and has something to prove. But then you contrast that with Johnny. Whereas this season, it becomes one, they've filled out the cast more. So it's not about just these core characters. We've hardly seen anything of Miguel. Johnny, we see some of Johnny, but it's now the attention is shifted to Kreese. They're trying to build out the backstory of these supporting characters. So I think one that weakens the season because we don't care. We don't. And then there are certain characters that have never been compelling, who shall remain unnamed, but Robbie and Sam, that are now given more screen time than ever. And so it's still a 24-minute episode, and we're halfway through almost of the season, and I feel I don't know what's going on with Miguel. I don't really know what's going on with Johnny. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes this show kind of frustrating in the season 2.
Yeah, that they take the very strong elements and they kind of shift away from them. I would say, for me, I agree with what you're saying completely, but for me, season 1 was it was so, and to be fair, season 1 was crazy good. It was so much better than I was expecting. Anytime that I thought they would make a wrong turn, they always made a right turn. And some of it was just that I felt my expectations were always subverted, And
yeah, exactly.
Every time, it's and they also were with Johnny as a sensei, it's you could see sometimes his weird Johnniness would pay off and sometimes it wouldn't. It was constantly surprising that way. And things with Hawk being the shy kid with the facial disfigurement suddenly becoming Hawk, it was was not expecting that. This season's almost it's there are very few subverted expectations. They do focus a lot on this Miyagi-Do versus Cobra Kai thing, which I'm going to say culminates in a fun way, but not in in any way a realistic way in the final episode.
Yeah, it becomes more like an ancient war, and what, I don't know, even scene to scene, when you talk about subverted expectations, everything feels predictable.
Yep.
In the fight scene, I was do we really need the scene of the thugs taking on Daniel?
Yes.
Which neatly fits into him videotaping it, which leads to his moment of truth. It's all a little too
right. None of it is.
Cutter.
Everything is incredibly predictable, and so that's frustrating with the season that came before it, totally relying on being both unpredictable but also of course now that makes sense when I think about it, and that's sad. The season's probably at its best when it has these moments of absurdity as portraying this weird section of Los Angeles as a place with 2 warring karate clans. It's ridiculous. It's kind of fun. Season 1 was actually more about it was just more realistic actually, so it didn't have these moments of craziness, but it ultimately, yeah.
Yeah, and if they're going to provide backstory, they need to do it on characters we care about. Like, tell us a little bit more about like Miguel's home life, like, or his father leaving, or maybe they're foreshadowing for season 4. I don't know.
Right.
Or like Johnny's backstory. Like we still haven't really seen that much of his like life in the intervening years.
Right. Like I don't think you're quite done with them, and like also like things like Kreese being homeless, literally the most predictable thing in the world.
Oh my god, wouldn't it have been hilarious if he actually was in a 5-star hotel?
That would have been at least something like was not expecting that.
I mean, that would have been like a wacky 80s thing, and like, you know.
Turns out he's actually Rockefeller's lost heir.
He's actually to be like hobo chic, and that duffel bag has millions of dollars in it. Who knew? And he has infinity money to fix infinity karate trophies.
Mm-hmm. And a garden filled with cobras, because he's trying to find his
cobra
mother from his last cobra life.
It all circles back. Okay.
And with that, listeners,
we're ready to close it out. Strike first.
Strike hard.
No mercy.